Welcome back. This is part two of Dewey's conversation with Shareen.
So I want to dive more into the whole agreements thing. I like how you describe it as, um, you know, um, let's say someone wants to learn forgiveness and they have to find someone to be the villain, right? And this is what I always remind people that we all play a role, and it might look like there's a good side and a bad side, but in order for something to happen, there needs to be some kind of agreement. And so that's why we are never a victim. And sometimes what really helps me in my journey to really forgive or get over something big or something that is very hurtful in my life is when I remembered or when I saw some of the past life where, hey, I actually did that to that person, like what this person is doing to me. And so it just kind of clicked, oh, okay. So at the end of the day, we're all the same. Like, I'm not the better person. That person is the villain.
Yeah.
In order for someone to be the hero, there needs to be a villain. If not, then it just doesn't work. Then everybody's a good guy or everybody's a bad guy.
Uh,
So
yeah,
I want to, yeah,
yeah.
go ahead.
Point of view, definitions, um, and this is gonna be really hard for some people. So truth, we like to think of truth as being immutable. There is one truth,
Right.
but truth has always got many elements of subjectivity to it.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that it wasn't true, just means it's different. And one of the best examples, one of the Carolyn Myss wrote a book, well, several books, but she wrote one called The Anatomy of the Spirit. And in it, she talks about how, if there's a building on fire or a room, let's say there's an apartment in a building that's a high rise on fire, and the high rise takes up the whole city block. There are no other buildings. It's just that's the building, that's the block. But if you're standing on the northwest corner of the streets and somebody's standing on the southeast corner and the southwest, and one on each, there's four people, and they're there at the same time, see the fire start, or at least they see the smoke come out of the window, right? They're each going to describe it different. They have a different point of view. And the person living in that apartment has yet another point of view. And that person's story is going to be the most different from any of the ones on the story, right? The
Mhm.
fire's going to start sooner. They're going, whatever. That doesn't mean that anybody's story is not true.
Yeah.
But if you looked at them and said, which one is the truth?
Mhm.
There is no, so, and ethics kind of has the same, it's the high-rise building with all the different floors and the different apartments and the different perspectives. Um, in general, on this planet, we have an agreement that murder is bad,
Mhm.
right? But that's kind of one of those worldwide, for the most part, worldwide agreements. Now, there might be subcultures, different parts, different things where murder's just a thing, was just a thing we do. It's fine. I think about the uh, anthropological, archaeological records that kind of indicate there were groups of people who were cannibals,
Mhm. Yeah.
and not because they necessarily needed it to survive in a snowstorm, but because that was part of their culture,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And or the Inca Maya Aztecs that, cut people's hearts out while
Mhm.
they were alive. And some of them go, "Oh my God!" But within the context of their religion and appeasing their gods, and there was a lot to that. It
Mhm.
wasn't just murder;
Mhm.
it
Mhm.
was sacrifice, and sometimes the sacrificial people were captives of war raids, didn't really have a choice. But a lot of times the sacrifices were chosen and lived a very venerated life up until
Yeah.
that point.
Yeah. Mhm.
Right. And
Mhm.
so again, truth agreements. So yes, birth agreements, negotiating birth agreements. There are all different levels of experience on this planet, right? Like I said, this planet is only one place that a spirit can go to his way. And from the spirit's perspective, all it wants is to experience. Every experience is a new experience. Every experience is valuable. Every experience. And so there's a certain part of the spirit that is very, very neutral,
Mhm.
right? It's just having an experience and it's exciting and it's fantastic.
Mhm.
Now, the body that has senses, that experiences the physicality, that has emotional tie. And I do actually think that our emotions are something that God gave us to help process whether we like or don't like an experience,
Mhm. Mhm.
right? We have grief, sadness, fear, joy, ecstasy, pain. Pain gets kind of confusing,
Mhm. Mhm.
especially on a body level, because it's processed in the exact same way pleasure is for the
Mhm.
brain.
I
It's
know.
just an intensity.
I have this weird thing where I love um pressing on bruises like blue blacks. It has that pain, but there's also some kind of pleasure. I know it's all messed up.
Yeah. Like, oh, the brain is
Oh,
processing it. Yeah.
yes.
And it's, yeah. And, and there's a lot of different experiences. I mean, there's whole sexual practices around that people choose to engage in because it's so closely related, right?
Hmm.
One heightens the other.
Hmm.
Not for everybody. I'm not saying everybody should do it or try it, but you can look it up. There are studies about it. Um, if you're curious. And there's no need to if you're not. Um, but that's kind of so for the spirit is like, oh, this experience of how does it feel to be in this situation with these things? What was my experience? How does that contrast to this? What's the same? What's different? That can all happen. You mentioned, having memory like, oh, I've done this to that person. And that can happen, but it can also be, oh, I've done that. What they're doing, I've done, maybe not to that person, but to someone, right?
Oh, do
Um,
that too. Hmm.
yeah. And so one of the weirder, oh my gosh, moments, my very best friend in the world, she and I were taking a girls' trip to the coast, and we are just driving up the coast and talking. And I don't even remember what we were talking about. I don't know if it was where we were. There was something that just triggered in a memory, and it was a very clear memory of being in, we'll just call it for, I don't have a different word, a coven or a cult or something. And my best friend was up on the altar and I cut her heart out just right there. I was like, God, like I just had all this, I had my present time reaction
Yeah.
to that, like if seen it from like a 3D or not
Yeah.
3D, but observational perspective, like me as Shareen was like horrified.
Yeah.
And I simultaneously had the realization that me as the person doing the sacrifice was not ecstatic. It was hard because I
Hmm.
do believe that she was my friend in that lifetime too, but it
Yeah.
was necessary. I had the strength of conviction to do what needed to be done,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And and both of those experiences like were just suddenly right there.
Yeah.
And I was
Yeah.
telling my friend, I'm like, I'm having the weirdest moment. She's like, well, what? And I was telling her, and she was just very, I don't know if she just kind of like, yeah, la 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 la. But there was just that realization of like, oh,
Yeah.
and the overlaying, and even in like my mind's eye, and of like her present time face over the face, like I knew it was her. And sometimes we have those. Yeah, I know. There's some people that go listen and go like that woman is just off her rocker. She's crazy. Right? And how many
Well,
times do we have to battle that? But
I read Paulo Coelho's book where he um one of his lifetime he murdered 8 women. And so he's met in present life, I believe, 4 of those women to seek forgiveness from. And this is the story of the fifth one. And this fifth one is the most difficult one because he was actually in love with her. in that lifetime, that they couldn't be together, and he was a priest, monk, whatever they call it, and he had to do, well, she was taught to be, or it was a witch hunt era, and so he had to kill her, and he punished her until she died. So, that was a lot. And then in present lifetime, they met up again, and I'm not going to spoil the story, but yeah, it just reminded me of, your story reminded me of
Mhm.
that, where it can be a lot, and it's a whole journey by itself, to process all that, and um, uh, to heal from, I guess, would be uh,
Yeah.
the word.
And I want to get back to the birth contract moment, but
Right.
before we go back there, I will say that in any moment, and maybe you could even say any breath, but any moment, you are operating off of present time experience, this lifetime's memory, and information that you have from different past lives
Mhm,
on purpose. You're like, I want information about this. Give me all of that. And you're utilizing it, whether you want to call it unconsciously, subconsciously, spiritual, like it's informing. So that, the people are like, I don't know how I knew to just do that, but I just knew to do that. It's like, well, maybe some help from God, maybe some help from your spirit team, guardian angels, and your own information. We
mhm,
don't operate in a vacuum ever, which comes
mhm,
back to the birth agreements. So, from my perspective, our strongest birth agreements in some ways are not with our immediate birth family. Some of that is the kind of not accidental, but they were the available parents at the time. Most of our strong are the people that we want to meet from our soul family or different things so that we encounter each other at appropriate age for whatever we want to experience, right?
mhm,
So if you're talking about romantic relationship, this one gets kind of tricky because spirit's understanding of time, not always so great. It's close enough, right? And
mhm,
I think a lot about, we've talked about YLB and Berkeley Psychic Institute. There's a lot of people at Berkeley Psychic Institute that I have strong agreements with,
mhm,
and 90% of them are over the age 65.
mhm,
And I was like, it's close enough. I'll get there. And I'm like, it kind of is. I get to kind of say hello to them. But, if I'd been born, you know, 20 years earlier,
Yeah,
we would have been peers at that
right,
level. Good,
right.
bad, right, or wrong. It was kind of like, oh, okay. Yeah, those are my people. Hi, bye. Oh, you died. Okay. Um, you know,
Mhm,
there is that. But I recognize, I won't say their names, but I recognize each, like, oh, there's one, there's one, there's one, there's
mhm,
one, there's one. Oh my gosh. Oh, and then
mhm,
there's the whole other group of people, like you and other people who come in kind of after me. And we're not that far from age a lot of times. Sometimes age doesn't matter, right? It's experience in the program.
mhm, mhm,
Um,
mhm,
so there is some point to that. But like the friends that we make in school, like I don't know if
mhm,
you have any childhood friends that have lasted like you've been friends the whole time, but um there's one woman, and I wouldn't have called us, we weren't close friends. There were points where we were kind of besties. Like, um, third grade is when I met her. And she moved in down the street, and we walked to school together and became kind of friends, right? And we helped each other kind of survive the trauma of isolation, outcast, new, whatever, right? And then we get kind of in the groove, and we're pretty good friends all the way up to junior high, and then suddenly like there's a whole nother pool of friends that could be available, right? And and I still was down for being friends, but she was kind of like, no, I want to go be friends over here.
mhm,
And she actually, because I have a high tolerance, she actually had to get really mean to get me to walk away, right?
mhm,
And so she was super mean to me, and that was hurtful. Like, and I'm learning about friendship, right? This is
Mhm.
part of the agreement.
Mhm. Mhm.
Fast forward to 2009, 2008, 2009, around there. I haven't really talked to her in between, but she has four children. I have four children, and they're the same ages, and they're going to the same school, right? Well, the oldest two, same ages, not really same school, but the younger three just, and especially the middle two, really locked in. Um, and she and I were doing the parent booster thing together, this and that together. We were kind of raising our kids together, but not really together because we still weren't close friends, but we lived kind of close and the kids would play and,
Mhm.
different things. But she actually was one of those momentary mentors in my business at the
Mhm.
time.
Mhm.
And she called me on my um, lack mentality,
Mhm.
where I was actually selling a product to people who made way more money than I was used to making,
Mhm.
right? And
Mhm.
so they're spending 10, $20,000 on something that I just can't even fathom, but I'm selling, like I'm creating and selling this, but I was always presenting it with the like, oh my God, this is a lot,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
and she's like, you're gonna handcraft make this thing that fits in my house that if I went to IKEA and bought the click clack thing is 300 more than what you're quoting me now.
Mhm.
You are undervaluing yourself and you're doing it because you don't understand this level of things.
Yeah.
And it was like, so
Yeah.
they're just, those are the kinds of agreements though, right? That's a soul family agreement
Yeah.
to help each other. And we probably are much closer in our soul family than we are currently in this lifetime. Because I just recognize those patterns of like, all right, we're going to come together and do this. I'll help you here and here. I'll challenge you here and here. We'll do these things. I'll have to learn how to forgive you for being mean to me. You're going to have to learn how to draw a boundary that I can't just coexist in, all
Mhm.
sides of those things, right?
Mhm.
And so that's one example of the kind of soul contract agreement. And then,
Mhm.
I don't know, there's books out there about your soulmate, your twin flame, whatever, right? And the idealized version is that's going to be your spouse, right?
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
sometimes that's not true. And sometimes the twin flame isn't about a sexual connection at all,
Mhm.
right? My very best friend, I would say she's my twin flame because we are so similar
Yeah.
in some ways, but so equally and opposite similar in other ways
Mhm.
that we understand each other without question. But like we were talking about social anxiety, right? And so my my version of social anxiety is everybody's going to expect me to know everything and do everything, fix everything. If I get it wrong, the whole village dies or the whole world explodes, right? That's my level of social, that's my version. Her version is if she gets it wrong, everyone will hate her.
Mhm.
Nobody will want to talk to her.
Mhm.
We both have equal social anxiety in the same places and we feel it, but for totally different reasons.
Mhm.
One's responsibility, one's affinity, and those kind of things. And so, her and my agreement this lifetime was primarily in high school years, but we've just stayed pretty close friends. But I notice we go through, quote, the same thing in
Mhm.
the same patterns, in the
Mhm.
same wave, and oh, we're having a relationship issue. She's having this version of it, and I'm having this version. Oh, we're
Mhm.
doing fine in relationship. We're having career. It's just like the
Mhm.
same thing at the same time in the same patterns.
Mhm. Mhm.
To me, that's like the twin flame, and we understand each other enough to support each other through all the things. So
Mhm. Mhm.
that's a different kind of soul agreement.
Mhm.
If I don't know if you wanted to know the mechanics of the soul agreements or that kind of like, where's your version of question going?
Um, well, more of around like the experience of, what we have in our life. like for example, a lot of people, um, even about family, I think family is a big thing.
A big one.
It's a
Yes.
big one, especially here in Asia and Indonesia. Um, and I'm of Chinese descendant. So family is a huge thing. Like there's a huge agreement where we have to take care of each other. We have to the parents take care of the young, and then in return, when the parents get old, the young have to, the children have to take care of the older ones. Like there's a lot of agreements, and I know that a lot of um, people struggle. Like they say, "Oh, you can't choose your family," and then I just go, "Yeah, it's." You actually did.
But what if you did? Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, but still, sometimes it's a lot, right? Like it's a lot to process. It's a lot
Mhm.
to, how do we get out of it? Like it's a lot. Um,
Ooh, that's see, there's a question that I think we okay. So, okay, let's go with it back to that scenario of like, okay, you've talked with your spiritual counsel, you know what you want to learn, right?
Mhm,
Now it's time to have a body, and you've made your agreements with all of the people that are important in your life. You've even made notes about how you're going to recognize your spouse, your best friend, that like you got all the things, right? It's like, but I need a body.
mhm.
So you go to this place, and I'm just going to call it, I don't want to use anybody else's terms for it. So I'm just kind of blowing roses.
Baby matchmaking place,
It's more than that, but we'll call it the family matchmaking place.
family
Okay.
matchmaking. Okay.
Okay. So you're sitting up in kind of the seats watching, and down in the but there's two or five facilitators. Sometimes there's more facilitators, right? And there's all these screens like TV. I see them as TV movies, like not all these, but like three or five, right, playing. And the ones playing up on the screen that we're watching from the seats are the options that the person working with the facilitator
Mhm,
can choose from.
mhm,
Right. So they're watching, and you're watching, you're like, ooh, I like that story. I don't want to do that one. Da, 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 da. So they pick, let's say they pick the first screen, and you're like, ooh, I liked that story. And
mhm,
so they're like, okay, if you were willing to be part of that story, kind of raise your hand. And so then there's a group of us who are kind of like, okay, well, here are if you think of it like a play, here are all the roles in this story. Da, 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 da. And then like say there's three people who are like, well, I could be the mom. They're like, okay. And then that's when the second facility comes like, okay, here's where you guys have interacted in past lives. Here's some things. Or maybe you've never interacted in past lives. You don't have direct karma, but you have things that you could work on. You, as a mother before, were a checked out mom who always, so in this lifetime, you're gonna be working on being a responsible caregiving mom. And this spirit here who's gonna have the baby, it's gonna be the baby for you, is going to be very needy.
mhm,
Maybe they're just emotionally needy. Maybe they're physically needy. Maybe they have all
mhm,
the above. You kind of
mhm,
get to choose. Like she's like, oh, if it's going to be that much needy, I actually withdraw. So then they talk to the next, and they find, right,
mhm,
the parents.
mhm,
Now, in a perfect moment, they find the perfect mom and the perfect dad who wanted it.
mhm,
But sometimes those two are like, we are not going to do this whole relationship thing.
mhm,
No, we can't do that. So then the question is, okay, well, is this a moment of conception? Is this or okay, you're going to work with the mom on this, and the dad will just kind of be secondary. So let's see, oh, yeah, you guys could work on these things,
mhm,
right? And it's not that you don't have any agreement with it, but one is stronger than the other,
mhm,
right?
mhm, mhm,
And then, okay, so I can go, got the body, woohoo. Oh, look, I live here. And oh, how is that person living 4,000 miles away? I thought we were going to be doing this childhood thing to. oh, I guess we're not going to do childhood together. Maybe we can do, oh, when I'm 18, I can choose to go over here randomly and they'll choose to go over here and it's all of those things, right?
Yeah.
So then the biggest question people ask me is like, well, how does free will play into that? If you're
Hmm.
pre-choosing all this, is it all predetermined?
Hmm.
And it's like, oh, from my perspective, no,
Hmm.
it is not predetermined. The thing that is predetermined, and I call it the life path and the spirit path. And the spirit says, I want to learn about forgiveness. Every moment, every decision in my life is going to have some opportunity to learn about forgiveness, whether I'm forgiving someone, someone's forgiving me. That it could be big, it could be small. You're like, oh, I stepped on your toe. I'm sorry. I forgive you. To bigger things, right? That's the spirit is like, that's all I want. Everything is going to be about that.
Hmm.
The life path you have, because of the way, all these agreements form, you have some major things that you're looking for,
Hmm.
right? I need to interact with these seven people at some time in the life path.
Hmm.
So like we said, it's like, oh, well, I thought it was going to be in childhood, but that's not working out. So
Hmm.
I'm going to have to make a decision later for that to work out.
Right.
And each choice you make can actually, there might be whole sections of things that you were going to get to that you made a different choice that becomes not possible. That goes kind of back up into the, okay, new set, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And so literally if there's 150,000 possibility of sets that you're going to work on, then you go through the whole life thing, and you get through the door of death. This body dies, and you're going into the life review, right?
Yeah.
Well, which things did you choose? Which thing, and you're back with your spiritual counsel, you're back with those, you're reviewing all the decisions, you're reviewing all things. And a lot of times, yeah, the big things are there, but a lot of what you're reviewing is those every moment choices of how did you feel there? How did they feel there? Do you see what impact you had on them? And
Hmm.
oftentimes we're expecting the bad part, right? Like, oh, they're going to show me all the things that. But a lot of times it's like, did you see how happy you made that person? Did you see the impact? You didn't know that by smiling at that person on that day, they went on to make different choices over here, all
Yeah.
because you smiled,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's so big,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That it exhausts us to think about because we can't even remember what we did an hour ago. You're telling me every choice I made in the last 5 hours
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
in my life review.
That's actually a very good point. There was a story about this serial killer where he shared, he got caught and he shared. At one point, he wanted to kill someone, like that was the day he wanted to kill someone. But because he went to like a McDonald's or whatever, like a fast food place, and the person behind the counter was so kind, was so nice. And so he goes, I can't do this. Like, I think he was like going to mass shoot someone or he's
Mm,
gonna put a bomb. I don't know. I forgot the whole details, but he changed his trajectory because of someone just being kind to him. Someone said hello to him, and so yeah, that just
yeah.
reminded me of that. Yeah.
So yeah, those are from my perspective, when and uh, like, well, who's in the spiritual team, right? Well, I do believe each lifetime, especially for the life review, there are people who were important to you in that life, like your grandparents or an aunt or uncle or some you recognize. There's also, say you always grew up with a strong, like I have a guardian angel and I talk to them every day. They might be there. If you grew up like, I don't even, this whole God, we never talked about guardian angels. Having a guardian angel show up in your life, you'd be like, meh. But if so the kind of framework that was important in your life, there will be aspects of that present in the life review. Once you get through the life review, then some of those frameworks start to adjust, dissolve. There are different people who have talked about having near-death experiences of and go here and kind of seeing the healing chambers. You can go be in that healing chamber for until the trauma has melted away, you know. And
Mhm.
I I think a lot about there are in American history a couple of very pivotal thing Revolutionary War always like I just resonated with everything about that time period. Not so much the war. Like I wasn't like excited about the war. I didn't care about this battle or that battle. But everything about it, the culture and the, wanting to be independent of this thing and all of like just everything else about it is like, well, it's like, I think probably I had some information there. Then talk about World War II, and don't tell me anything. I don't want to talk about it. Remember when Schindler's List came out, my friends had to bribe me like hardcore to go see it with them. And I was so mad the whole time, like, I am not gonna. And I watched the movie and I enjoyed the movie, but I recognized in watching that movie that the reason I was so resistant to it is because I was one of not like Nazi leadership, but one of the German citizens who decided to go into Nazi, who, worked, whose job was to go to the concentration camp and work
Mm,
and do all that. And, the horror of
mhm,
that
mhm,
just like it still makes my heart just I just want to throw up,
mhm,
It's like,
mhm,
and I recognize not because I was like, oh, I want to kill these Jews, but like that was just my job.
mhm,
And I have a really hard time right now with some things going on in America because I'm like, there's some shit going down right now that is so close in some ways. And anyway, blow all that up. But those are, I was just gonna back up a little bit, back up the truck. But those are the kinds of things when we're, working out life agreements. And even in this life, like I'm now 53, so you do have different exit point options, right? Originally, I knew I was going to die youngish at 37. Like I knew the day. I knew not the day, I knew the year. I'm going to die at this point. Da, da. And at 37, I had,
This is the end of part two of our four-part conversation with Shareen on soul agreements. Stay tuned because each upcoming episode opens another layer of clarity, remembrance, and truth.